Hello friends and fellow adventurers, welcome back to the table. Today we are continuing our adventure through this brand new little dungeon that I am slowly working the kinks out of as I randomly go through each room. Where we stopped with Krog, Sky, Kiba, and Malgarius was they had just entered the second room of this dungeon, in which we found out that it was an intersection of hallways, and that there was a viper, a giant viper, that had made its nest in this room. Also, we knew that there's some form of natural light in this room, and also that there is one alternate exit, aside from the one that we are coming in, and there is one hidden exit. Now, I know because this is what I was hoping something would come up for this to happen, and this is already the perfect opportunity for it. Now, this hidden exit is going to be how this giant viper gets in and out of its nest here. So it has its own way up to the surface that doesn't need to go back through the first room and back up through the grate that is sealed, because that just wouldn't make any sense anyway. So this is kind of the giant viper's nest. And we are getting ready to intrude on its home. Now, Sky and Kiba kind of took the lead going through the first room there, and Krog is currently on Malgarius' shoulders as he talked him into letting him ride his shoulders because Krog has an outstanding fear of water and the previous room was flooded. But the stairs ascend back out of the flooded area of the previous room into this intersection hallway. And that is where we are going to start. Now, since Sky was in the lead, her and Kiba, they come into this room. So we know the Viper is in there, but do they see the Viper right away? Now, I'm kind of picturing, since there's natural light in this room, it's lit up just enough for them to be able to kind of like see a decent way in front of them. Not necessarily, it's not lit up really brightly. Kind of how I'm picturing it is, even though this room isn't flooded like the previous room, I'm seeing that like the stone tiles of the floors have just this little bit of glimmer of moisture on it. And whatever natural light is filtering in from the hole that this viper has made, and it's just kind of reflecting off all the stones, basically illuminating the whole floorway. Now, this does allow them to see kind of where they're walking, but this doesn't necessarily let them see everything that's going on. So as Sky and Kiba kind of start making their way into this first room, I'm gonna ask, I should probably make this a Pathfinder skill related roll, so let's go with that. Now, Sky's perception is actually pretty good. She has a +7. Now, the Viper is not necessarily actively hiding, but I am going to use its stealth for the DC. Does it have a good stealth? It does, so that's a DC 18, which is actually going to be pretty tough. But this is just for her to spot the Viper immediately. So Sky, as Kiba kind of tiptoes his way into the room, he's not necessarily being sneaky, but I feel like he's probably pretty light-footed by nature. And Kiba kind of ascends, or not Kiba, Sky ascends the stairs. And she can see the glimmering of the floor, the moisture. She can tell that there is natural light coming into this room from somewhere, and that immediately intrigues her. But she kind of just scans the room with a miss. That's a 4 and a 7, so that's only an 11. So with an 11, she does not see the Viper. So let's say the Viper's not immediately right now. Let's say he is down in this corner here. I like that. Okay. Now they know that they are in a dangerous area, and supposedly this dungeon is filled with undead. And that's what they were told by Gari and her army. So they're going to continue their way deeper into this room kind of just keeping an eye out. Once Malgarius kind of gets to the stairs, Krog hops off his shoulders, and since the water is no longer up above his ankles, he feels pretty safe. So he hops off, and he thanks Malgarius for the kind gesture that he did for him, and he reassures him that he is going to give him some type of payment for this silly thing, and who knows, he's probably going to need to do it again before this dungeon is over. So they continue their way through until they get up here. Now I'm going to say that the Viper immediately notices them, because it was probably just curled up. Let's ask the fate chart. Is this Viper, is it protecting a nest? Does it have eggs in here? So it would be extra on guard. Is this Viper protecting a nest full of eggs? I'm gonna make it 50-50. I know I already rolled and it's a 71. I believe we are still currently on a chaos factor of 4. Okay, a 50-50, chaos factor 4. That is a no. So it is not guarding eggs, so it's not going to be extremely overly protective, and that is good, obviously. But it is going to see Kiba, and Sky is going to be following right behind Kiba. And Sky notices Kiba's demeanor instantly change as Kiba looks over and sees the snake. The snake uncoils itself and starts to slither up to Kiba. Kiba hops back. And by this time, Sky is able to see it. Now, Sky, being a druid of the animals, she does in fact have animal empathy. So she is able to communicate with animals. Now this is going to come in handy in this scenario because immediately she's going to put her hands up in a gesture, a very calming gesture, obviously showing that they do not mean harm. And as she puts one hand up towards the snake, and she puts one hand up towards Krog and Malgarius, who are just, they're probably being pretty cautious, but they're probably not that light-footed. Maybe Krog is, but Malgarius is probably just flat-footing it the whole time, making really loud footsteps. And Sky holds her hand up to communicate to stop to them. Krog notices this, and they both stop in their tracks, keeping her attention directly on the snake. Now, it just says that she is able to communicate. I don't know if that means she can physically talk to them. It is called animal empathy, so maybe it's just more of an emotional connection that she has with animals. But in a way, it is similar to talking to them. Maybe not like complete sentences, but she's able to convey some more complex feelings and situations. So the snake again kind of like starts to make its way over to them, and this is a big snake. Like, you think anacondas, but like twice the size. Its mouth could fit around probably the entire bottom portion of a human, so it is a formidable beast, that is no doubt. Sky is going to attempt to communicate to this, and I'm going to let her use her nature check, and that is going to go against the Viper's. That's going to be against the Viper's will save. So the will DC is going to be a 16. So Sky's going to need to roll a 9 or higher to succeed on this. The snake slithers up, and she can tell, again without actual words and complete sentences, that the snake is basically saying, "What are you doing here? Explain yourself. If not, I will attack." And Sky does her best to convey that we mean no harm. We are only passing through. We have means in further sections of this humanoid building here. We do not wish to intrude on your nest. So with that, of course, why would I succeed at any check ever? So she fails. The snake lifts its body up, as if to say, that is not a good enough reason. Does it show any signs? Because we know other groups of people were sent through here by Gari, and if this snake is still here, either the snake wasn't here when they passed through, or it probably had a bit of a scuffle with them and they probably ran away because obviously they didn't defeat it. So does this snake show any signs of a recent battle? We'll go 50-50 again. 25, it does, yes. So there's a couple cut marks on it, so it is not likely to just back down from this, being as it probably succeeded at its previous battle with the other ones that came through here. So chances are they made it through here and they had to run for their lives. I'll tell you what, that being said, taking a quick look around, does Krog or Sky see any other bodies in this room? Perhaps, I mean, maybe the snake could have eaten them. You know, I'll just go with my gut on this one. I'm gonna say that they fought this snake, but they lost, so they kind of had to retreat further down into the rest of this dungeon. Okay, so that being said, I'm gonna say the next doorway that we actually can access is gonna be right there. So directly across from us. So the party before us probably just booked it, ran through that door, and probably closed it behind them. So this door is closed. But we need to resolve this confrontation here. I'm gonna give Sky one more chance because I really want this to work out. Kiba is starting to get agitated. Krog saw the snake come up, but he can see that Sky is communicating with the snake in some way, and this probably surprises him. I don't think Krog has encountered a druid or anybody that could like talk to animals like this. So he's probably pretty intrigued. I'm gonna give Sky one more chance. She pleads, she gives all of her energy into showing this snake that they do not mean it harm. So again, a 9 or above. Okay, a 12, so she succeeds. The snake, with its body raised up, looking like it's getting ready to strike. Let's see, how should I put this? Sky just gives a very submissive gesture. She gets down on her hands and knees, almost as if she is bowing, to show this snake that they do not mean them any harm. Krog picks up on this, and he also gets down. Malgarius too. I think Kiba probably stands his ground. That's just kind of the vibe I'm getting from Kiba. The snake, its eyes dart between them. It lowers back down, and it seems to back down a little bit. It's going to keep its eye on them, but it is going to kind of go back over to its nest. I'm thinking its nest is in this area here. Kind of some sticks and some moss and some of the dirt that it kind of dragged down here with it when it burrowed down here. So this is going to give us an alternate exit from here. Maybe there will be more further in the dungeon, because right now the snake is not exactly on our good side, but perhaps if we continue down and we don't find any other ways out, maybe we can come back here and try to talk to this viper once more and see if it will allow us to pass through, which I think is going to be pretty unlikely, so we might end up having to fight it anyway. But I think Sky is going to do everything in her power to prevent that. So, that being said, our party is going to very humbly and very slowly make their way over to this door, and they are going to go into the next room. So let's roll up that next room. I'm not gonna go through like I did in the last video, and I'm not gonna show me going through and doing all that. I'm just gonna cut that part out, and I will give you the finished room. But there is the roll, and I will see you in a minute. Alright, here we go. Now, I know I said I wasn't going to go through all of it, but I'm going to run down what I rolled, so I kind of already got it created over here. So, we have magical lighting of some kind, which I'm just going to be very generic and say that there's probably some ever-burning torches in here, just lit from probably when this dungeon was created. So we got 3 on the D4 for magical light. On the D6 we also have a 3, and that gives us 3 exits, which is why there's going to be a room to the north, south, and further to the west. The D8 gave us a 1, which is a small room. That's why it's so tiny and very compact. The D10 told us that it was a square room. Okay, very generic. The room purpose turned out to be a 9, which is an audience chamber. Thrones, chairs, banners, formals. Now, since this is such a small room, obviously this probably couldn't be an audience chamber. I'm thinking there are items that would be in an audience chamber. Or actually, you know what? Now that I'm thinking about this, and I'm actually talking to this out loud, maybe this in this area during the time that this dungeon was being used, maybe this was some type of like office area where somebody would, like, people would come in, they would either talk to the secretary here, or maybe they were being evaluated in some way, maybe prisoners, maybe clergy. Could be a lot of things. We don't know anything about this dungeon yet. So maybe this room, they would tell them like, okay, you're going to go through the north door, you through the south door, you to the door behind me. Okay, so I kind of like that, but rolling with that and how I have it set up here, like all the furniture has been kind of pushed to the edges of the room, so the floor is pretty opened up. I like that. And a 10 on the loot is nothing. I did edit the tables just a little bit, so a 1 through 10. There is a 50% chance of me not finding any loot, which I'm okay with. I don't want loot to just be abundant everywhere, and even in the event that I do find some loot, I'm going to keep it pretty simple. I'm not going to be like, oh, we found a +1 long sword, and I'm not going to be detailed with it. I'm going to be like, okay, there was 2 weapons in here, a piece of armor, and a few potions and a bag of coins. That way, if Krog wants to carry the items, I'm going to have bulk associated with all the items too, so I can keep track of the weight. Be like, okay, well, I'll pick up these couple swords and I'll sell them when I get back to town, give the money to the monastery, because Krog's not interested in obtaining wealth, but he is interested in restoring the monastery back to its former glory, which is the whole purpose of this story at this point. So he will pick up items and gold, but only for the purpose of basically selling them and giving the money to the monastery. Regardless, we have no loot in this room, and our encounter gave us a standard foe. Now, I redid this a lot too. I kind of I shrunk it in a little bit, so that way there's a 33% chance of no encounter, and then bigger chances of there being minor foes, standard foes, and elite foes. But a standard foe, that is just going to be a moderate encounter. A moderate encounter is going to give us 40 XP to burn, so it's going to be the same level as us. And since we are only party level 1, I'm going to quickly go find a creature for us to fight, and this will probably be our first combat in this dungeon. So our heroes kind of make their way in. For some reason I have Kiba leading the party. I didn't really do that on purpose, but I feel like it probably would go like that. So Kiba kind of is like scouting out the room. Sky enters, and I'm gonna say Malgarius is just outside of the room, as whatever creature we find is going to come up. Now, most likely it's going to be undead, but I will be right back with which creature it is going to be. Alright, so just with a quick glance into the Monster Core book, I see a plague zombie under the level 1 creatures, and that fits perfectly. So this is going to be a plague zombie. Let me get him queued up. Alright, now I can take these dice out of there. Let's ask the fate chart, because I think that this is pretty likely. So I'm gonna actually go with very likely. Is this plague zombie one of the former parties that was sent down here? This is maybe like one member that got killed in this room on their way deeper in to find this relic for Gari. So let's ask that. Very likely. On a chaos factor of 4, very likely. Is this one of the previous parties that came through here? Ooh, 11! Yes! Not only, thank you, we have not had a random event in a while. So, not only is that an extreme yes, so this person is kind of dressed in like the prisoner attire that they saw all the other people in the cages up top in the camp during their night there. And it seems that they were given some very crappy weapons. They see those laying on the floor. But this person perished in this room. But apparently the rest of the party was able to make it past. But the magic and the energies of this dungeon twisted this poor person into this pustule plague zombie. And I think his body was just kind of like resting here in the corner with all the kind of debris and the other furniture that was in this room. And sensing the presence of other living beings, he began to rise up. His pustules kind of vibrating as he gets to his feet. Now, with that in mind, let's take care of this random event real quick, and I might stop it there because we're hitting that 30-minute mark. Alright, so we are going to roll for the event focus. What is the focus of this random event? Oops, it would help if I rolled the correct dice. There we go. Ooh, a 90. That's going to be current context. Okay, so random event of what is happening right now in this room. So we're being basically ambushed by this plague zombie. We had our eyes out, but I mean, maybe it's not a surprise, but let's roll on a table to find out why. Find out what is happening. Alright, random event. I'm going to use the action table because it's pretty actiony. We have 31, which is depart. And we have 12, which is business. Depart business for a random event that the current context is now. I'm going to say that maybe this zombie, this person, before they died and became a zombie, they were carrying some form of like a map or some type of information that we can use to help us locate that relic faster. So that would be the business, and then obviously the departed is because they died. So I like that. So there's going to be something on this creature, this zombie, that is going to help aid us in our search for the relic. Something they discovered before they died. Okay, well, so we found a zombie that we are going to fight in our next session, and they are going to give us some type of useful information for finding this relic. Also, right before I close out of this, and I meant to touch on this in the beginning, I need a way to keep track of the progress. I don't want to know when I'm going to find the relic, but I need to know kind of when to bring it up at the same time. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to kind of steal the idea of the progress track. I'm going to mishmash it with some systems from other books. So here in the beginning, I'm going to do 6 boxes. And for each room we go in, I am going to roll a d6. And if I get a 1, there's going to be no progress. If I get a 6, there's going to be 2 squares of progress. And anything else is just going to be 1 square of progress. Now I'm going to count this room that we are currently in as our first roll. So this room, and honestly, I'll tell you what, I'm not going to roll because of the random event giving us information. I'm going to automatically mark that down as 2 progress. So we are already, I'm going to fill that in, 2 squares. We're 33% of the way of finding this relic. I really like how that worked out. Okay, and that'll just be our little progress bar. Alright, well with that, thank you so much for watching if you did, and as always, thank you, and I will see you in the next session. Goodbye, friends.